I never thought my own daughter would see me as nothing more than a walking checkbook. But that's exactly what happened, and it still stings every time I replay it in my mind. My name is Richard Grant. I'm 68 years old, a retired high school principal, and a widower of nearly a decade. I spent 35 years shaping young minds, teaching discipline, fairness, and consequences. My wife, Margaret, was the heart of our family, the kind of woman who made holidays sparkle and who believed education was the one gift that could never be stolen. When she passed, a piece of me went with her. But I kept going for my daughter, Claire, and later, my granddaughter Lily. Claire is 37 now. She was always bright but restless, never one to save money or think about the future. She married Mark, a man who can talk circles around anyone, but has never kept a job longer than 2 years. They live in a nice enough house, paid partly by me, and drive cars they can't afford. I've helped them more times than I can count. Down payments, school tuition, medical bills, emergencies that seemed more like poor planning. And I never complained because of Lily. That little girl is my sunshine. She's 10, with Margaret's same dimpled smile. She loves books, just like her grandmother. And when she curls up in my lap asking me to read to her, I almost believe the world is still good. But family can cut the deepest. It started with an idea I had been nursing for years. Margaret and I had always dreamed of traveling through Europe, Paris for her, Rome for me. We never managed it while she was alive, too busy raising Claire and building our lives. But after she passed, I decided I'd make it happen somehow. Not just for me, for all of us. So last winter, I called Claire and Mark over for dinner. I made roast chicken, Margaret's recipe, the one that always filled the house with garlic and rosemary. Lily helped set the table, carefully placing each fork as though it were a royal feast. When dessert came, Margaret's peach cobbler, my clumsy attempt at least, I cleared my throat. I've been thinking, I began, looking at Claire. Next summer, I want us all to take a trip. Europe, Paris, Rome, maybe even London. The works. We'll do it in Margaret's honor. Claire's eyes widened. Mark's fork clinked against his plate. You're serious? Claire asked. Completely, I said. I'll cover most of it. Flights, hotels. Consider it my gift to the family. Mark leaned back in his chair, calculating. I could almost hear the gears turning in his head. Euro signs replacing dollar signs. That would be incredible, he said slowly. But it'll be expensive. I've been saving, I told him. I've got the pension. The house is paid off, and frankly, I'd rather spend money making memories with you than let it sit in some account. Lily clapped her hands. Grandpa, I want to see the Eiffel Tower. Her excitement made my chest ache in the best way. For once, I felt like I was giving them something that would outlast me. Over the next few months, I watched Claire and Mark dive into planning. Flights, Airbnbs, tours. Mark sent me spreadsheets. He's always been good at pretending to be organized when money is involved. Claire talked endlessly about shopping in Milan, eating gelato in Florence, taking selfies in front of the Colosseum. At first, I felt included. They asked me what I wanted to see, where I wanted to stay. But gradually, the tone shifted. One evening, Claire called me. Dad, we've been thinking, she began, her voice sugar-coated. Europe is a lot of walking. Cobblestones, stairs. It's not really senior-friendly. I frowned. I can handle it. I may be 68, but I'm not an invalid. I know, she rushed. But Mark's worried about the pace. We don't want you to feel like you're slowing us down. Slowing you down. My chest tightened. It's just maybe it's better if we take this one ourselves. We'll bring Lily, of course. You'll get to see the pictures and hear all about it. You'll feel like you were there. The words stung like acid. So you're saying I should pay for the trip, but not go? Dad, don't make it sound ugly, Claire snapped. It's not about the money. It's about what's practical. I sat there, gripping the phone, staring at Margaret's photo on the mantel. She would have been furious. Claire, I said carefully. The whole point was to do this together, as a family. We're doing it as a family, she insisted. Just without you this time. It's easier. You understand. No, I didn't. The night before their departure, Claire dropped Lily off at my house. Can you watch her while we pack? She asked, breezing in like nothing was wrong. Lily ran into my arms, chattering about Paris. I can't wait to see the tower, Grandpa. Mommy says it sparkles at night. I swallowed hard, forcing a smile. You'll love it, sweetheart. When Claire came to pick her up, she handed me an envelope. Here's the itinerary, just so you know where we'll be. And Dad, thank you. Really, this means the world to us. I opened my mouth, but no words came. I just nodded. The next morning, I drove them to the airport. Mark barely said 2 words, too busy checking his phone. Claire fussed with the luggage. Lily hugged me tight before running toward the gate. And then, just like that, they were gone. Off to Europe on my dime without me. I stood there in the terminal, surrounded by strangers wheeling their own suitcases. And for the first time in years, I felt utterly disposable. Not a father, not a grandfather, not family, just a wallet with gray hair. That was the moment something inside me hardened. For decades, I taught my students that choices have consequences. Now, it was time to teach that lesson at home. And with the help of a very determined lawyer, I would make sure Claire and Mark learned it in a way they'd never forget. The day after Claire, Mark, and Lily flew off to Europe, my house felt like a tomb. I sat in my recliner with the curtains half closed, staring at the travel brochure I'd once been so excited about. Rome, Florence, Paris. Margaret had circled little stars on those pages years ago, dreaming of standing under the Eiffel Tower, of sipping espresso by the Trevi fountain. I had imagined myself there with her. Then, after she passed, I imagined going with Claire and Lily. But now those pages just mocked me. I ran my hand over Margaret's old reading chair, her afghan still folded neatly on the armrest. If she had been alive, none of this would have happened. Claire wouldn't have dared to treat me like an afterthought with her mother watching. My heart burned with 2 emotions I thought I'd buried long ago, betrayal and resolve. The next morning, I dug out an old photo album from the closet. Inside was a picture of me in the classroom, 30 years younger, pointing sternly at the blackboard. My students used to joke that my finger could cut glass. I remembered something I always told them. Every action has a consequence. You may not see it today, but you will feel it tomorrow. That was it. That was the answer. Claire and Mark had chosen selfishness. Now, they would learn consequences. That afternoon, I made a call to James Whitaker, an attorney who had once been a student of mine back in the 90s. He'd gone on to become a successful estate lawyer in town. Mr. Grant, he said warmly when I walked into his office the next day. Or should I say, Principal Grant, haven't seen you since I was a cocky 16-year-old trying to cheat my way through history class. You were clever, James, I said, shaking his hand firmly, but not clever enough to get past me. He laughed, and I thank you for it. That lesson probably kept me from making some very bad choices later. So what brings you in today? I sat down heavily in the leather chair across from him. Family and betrayal. His expression sobered. Tell me everything. And so I did. I told him about the Europe trip, how it was supposed to be in Margaret's honor, how Claire and Mark had cut me out, treating me like a burden but still taking my money. James listened without interruption, nodding slowly. When I finished, he leaned forward, hands steepled. Richard, it sounds like your daughter and her husband see you less as family and more as a resource. A bank. I know, I said bitterly. And I'm done letting them treat me that way. I want to make changes. To my will. To my estate. Everything. James tilted his head. Are you sure? These are serious steps. Once you do this, there's no going back without them knowing you've cut them out. I looked him straight in the eye. James, for 35 years, I taught kids that their choices matter. If I don't hold my own family to the same standard, then what kind of man am I? Over the next 2 hours, James and I went through everything. The house, fully paid off. My pension, still healthy. Savings accounts, investments. Originally, I admitted, I had everything set to go to Claire. I figured she'd take care of Lily with it. But now, I shook my head. James leaned back. You have options. You can set up a trust directly for your granddaughter. That way, Lily is provided for, but Claire and Mark can't touch a dime. You can also designate other beneficiaries, charities, scholarships, whatever you like. A weight lifted from my chest. A scholarship, I murmured. Margaret always believed in education. Maybe I could set something up in her name. James smiled. That would be a legacy she'd be proud of. We drafted the first papers that very day. Claire and Mark would not get the house. They would not touch the pension. And when I was gone, Lily would be protected, her education secure, and Margaret's name would live on. But I wasn't done yet. 2 weeks later, Claire and Mark returned from Europe, bronzed and smiling like they'd just stepped out of a travel magazine. They came over with Lily, who was glowing with stories about Paris. "Grandpa, we saw the tower. It really sparkled at night," she cried, throwing her arms around me. I hugged her tight, tears pricking my eyes. "I'm glad, sweetheart. I really am." But behind her back, I saw Claire smirk, as though she'd gotten away with something. "Dad," she said casually, sipping from the glass of iced tea I'd given her. "You should have seen the Louvre. Just walking in there felt like magic. Shame it would have been too much for you." I forced a smile. "Yes, shame." Mark clapped me on the shoulder. "But hey, you were with us in spirit. And you can't put a price on family memories, right?" My jaw tightened. Oh, there was a price. And soon they'd pay it. That night, after they left, I stood in front of Margaret's photo again. "Don't worry, my love," I whispered. "They think they've outsmarted me. But this time, the lesson won't be written on a blackboard. It'll be written in ink they can't erase." Because the real confrontation hadn't even begun. And when it came, it would happen where they least expected it. Right back at the airport. The smell of jet fuel always makes me uneasy. Maybe because airports are about departures, goodbyes, that gnawing ache of being left behind. But this time, I wasn't here to say goodbye. This time, I was here for justice. It was 6 months after their Europe trip. Claire and Mark had decided to take another vacation, this time to Mexico. Of course, they hadn't paid for it themselves. They came to me again, all smiles and sugar-coated words. "Dad, it'll be good for Lily," Claire insisted. "She's been working so hard at school. She deserves a break." But I knew better. This wasn't about Lily. It was about them chasing luxury at my expense. I nodded along, pretending to agree. Of course, family memories are priceless. But behind the mask, I was already preparing. 2 days before their trip, I met with James again. "Are you sure you want to do this at the airport?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "Absolutely," I said firmly. They humiliated me there. They left me standing like an unwanted extra in their lives. It's only fitting that their lesson begins in the same place. James sighed but smiled faintly. "Well, the documents are airtight. Once you hand these over, there's no going back. They'll know exactly what they lost." I tucked the folder into my briefcase, my heart pounding. The day of their flight, I drove them to the airport, just like last time. Mark lounged in the passenger seat, humming, while Claire scrolled on her phone. Lily, bless her heart, chattered excitedly in the back seat. "Grandpa, I'll bring you a seashell from the beach." I smiled at her in the rearview mirror. "I'd like that, sweetheart." When we arrived, I helped with the bags, just as I always did. Claire barely glanced at me. "Thanks, Dad," she said, distracted. But before they could walk toward security, I cleared my throat. "Actually," I said, pulling out the folder, "there's something I need to give you first." They turned. Claire frowned. "Dad, what is this? We're going to be late." "This," I said, handing the folder to her, "is your lesson." She opened it, brows knitting. Mark leaned over her shoulder, his cocky grin fading as he read the first page. "What the hell is this?" Claire demanded. "It's my will," I said calmly. "Updated. As of last month, everything I own, the house, the savings, the pension, goes into a trust for Lily. None of it passes through you." Claire's face drained of color. You can't do this." "I can," I said evenly. "And I have. Margaret's name will fund a scholarship for underprivileged students. Lily will have her education secured. And you and Mark—" I paused. "You'll get nothing." Mark's voice rose. "You're screwing us over, old man." I looked at him coolly. No, Mark. I'm holding you accountable. Actions have consequences. Claire's voice shook. Dad, we're your family. I felt my chest tighten, but I stood firm. Family doesn't abandon one another. Family doesn't use someone until they're empty. You made your choice at this very airport when you left me behind. Claire's composure cracked. She raised her voice, drawing stares from other passengers. You can't just erase us like this, after everything we've done for you. I laughed, short and bitter. Everything you've done for me? Claire, the only thing you've done is take. I raised you. I gave you everything I could. And when it was my turn to be included, you treated me like dead weight. Mark sneered. This is pathetic. You think Lily won't hate you when she's older. I bent down, meeting Lily's wide eyes. Sweetheart, do you understand? Grandpa's making sure you'll always be taken care of. That no one, not even Mommy and Daddy, can take away your future. She nodded slowly, innocence shining through her confusion. I love you, Grandpa. That nearly broke me, but I held my ground. Claire was crying now, tears streaking her makeup. Mark muttered curses under his breath, but there was nothing they could do. The papers were signed, sealed, and legally binding. I handed Claire the boarding passes. Go on. Mexico awaits. But when you come home, remember, your lifestyle no longer rests on my shoulders. They stood frozen, shock and fury warring across their faces. Passengers streamed around them, whispering. For once, they had no control. And for the first time in years, I felt free. As they walked toward security, dragging their suitcases and their shattered pride, Lily turned back and waved at me. I waved back, tears stinging my eyes. This wasn't the end of our story, only the beginning. Because when the dust settled, there would still be love, reconciliation, and a final lesson to deliver. And that's where Margaret's legacy would shine the brightest. The airport doors slid shut behind them, leaving me alone in the terminal. For a moment, I just stood there, the echo of their anger still buzzing in my ears. But beneath it all, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the fragile peace of keeping everyone happy. Not the shallow quiet of swallowing my pride. This was a deeper peace, earned solid, like the final bell ringing at the end of a long school year. That evening, James called. I assume it went as expected, he asked, his voice measured. They were furious, I admitted, but the paper spoke louder than I ever could. He chuckled softly. Good. Let them rage. Anger is noise. Paper is power. I thought about that long after we hung up. Noise fades. Power lasts. Over the next week, my phone rang nonstop. First Claire, then Mark, then Fern's number flashing across my screen. Every call went unanswered. They even showed up at my door once, pounding on it until the neighbors peeked through their curtains. I sat inside, sipping tea, the documents tucked safely in my desk drawer. Finally, the letters arrived. Thin envelopes from their attorney. I forwarded them straight to James. His reply was short and sweet. No worries. We're airtight. Let them waste their money. That was when it hit me. For the first time, I wasn't the one paying for their mistakes. They were. I began to live differently. Morning walks no longer felt heavy with dread. The park was alive with children playing, couples jogging, birdsong ringing in the air. I noticed things I'd forgotten. How sunlight looked when it caught the dew. How Margaret used to pause just to admire a rose bush. I even rejoined the community center, volunteering in the tutoring program. A boy named Andre, struggling with algebra, reminded me of the thousands of students I'd taught over the years. His face lit up when the equations finally made sense. That moment gave me more joy than any luxury vacation ever could. One afternoon, I received a letter from the Oakland Children's Education Foundation. Mr. Richard Campbell. It read, "We're honored to accept your generous trust. Your contribution will fund after-school programs for 300 students this year alone." I held the letter in trembling hands, tears welling in my eyes. Margaret would have smiled. She always believed education was the most powerful inheritance. The trust was no longer just paperwork. It was life. It was impact. It was legacy. Months passed before Claire finally came alone. No Mark. No Lily. Just Claire, standing awkwardly on my porch, eyes red-rimmed. "Dad," she whispered, "can we talk?" I let her in. She stood in the living room, staring at Margaret's photo on the mantel. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she said, "but Lily keeps asking why you don't come around. She misses you." My chest ached, but I held steady. "I miss her too. She's innocent in all this." Claire nodded, wiping her eyes. "I was selfish. I see that now. I thought if I kept everyone happy, I was doing the right thing. But I wasn't keeping you happy, was I?" "No," I said quietly. "You were keeping Mark happy. At my expense." Her tears fell freely then. I lost sight of who I was supposed to be. "Your daughter. I'm sorry." For the first time in years, I believed her. That weekend, Lily came to stay with me. We baked cookies, watched old cartoons, and laughed until our stomachs hurt. At bedtime, she hugged me tight. "Grandpa, promise you'll never leave me." I kissed her forehead. "Never, sweetheart. Not as long as I'm alive." And I meant it. Sitting in my favorite chair one evening, I looked around the quiet house. The air smelled of cookies and furniture polish. Margaret's clock ticked softly in the corner. For years, I thought revenge meant making them feel the pain I felt. But I realized something deeper. Revenge isn't about destroying others. It's about reclaiming yourself. I didn't ruin Claire and Mark. Life would teach them its own lessons. My victory was simpler. I had taken back my dignity, my peace, my future. I had turned betrayal into legacy. And as I drifted off to sleep that night, I knew one thing for certain. Some lessons can't be taught in a classroom. They can only be lived. If you found this story moving, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. And remember, betrayal might break you for a while, but standing up for yourself will remake you forever.